Hey guys, welcome back to Real Housewives Recaps. Today I'm covering Gallery Girls, episode 8, and if I sound sad, it's because it's the last episode of the series. So we're going to get into this last episode, and then we're going to catch up with what they've been up to since the show aired. So let's get into it. Hey guys, I just want to take a second and say if you're enjoying this show, please check out my Patreon. Go to patreon.com, search Real Housewives Recaps, or check the comments below and I'll put a link. And for $1 a week, you can support my show and get 4 bonus episodes per month. I'm covering Scary Island, like the greatest season of Real Housewives of New York. So check it out. Thanks so much. So the episode starts out at this cafe where Maggie has invited Amy for coffee. Maggie tells her she's going to leave the Eli Klein gallery. She just can't handle him anymore. Eli doesn't make Liz do the same things that he makes Maggie do. Maggie tells Amy about the Liz drama that went down at Art Basel and starts telling her how Liz really turned on her and her friends. And Maggie apologizes to Amy because she feels like she and her boyfriend Ryan prejudged Amy, all based on what Liz was telling her. Well, Amy starts to cry. I think this just means so much to her that Maggie is saying this, and it all kind of makes sense. Liz has been saying these terrible things. Maggie's been going along with it, and we saw Liz do the same thing before. She's doing it to Maggie now, but she did it before to Amy. So it's just interesting to see these two make up. And as much as Amy is a train wreck, and she is, she's genuinely seems like a nice person with good intentions, so I want the best for her. So I'm glad to see this scene. So then we go over to End of Century. They have to pay that bill that Claudia had received that she's stressing out over. And they only have exact rent, no more. So it's their second final termination notice, and, Claudia has been stressing about this. Chantal walks in with fur on from France, and she brought wine as well. And it's so messed up because Chantal is saying, yeah, I was sick. I had to stay in Paris for 10 days. And Claudia's not buying it. And I can't tell with Lauren. It seems like Lauren is firmly in Chantal's camp. So it's a messed up way to run a business. I think they all three have problems. They're very immature. They should not have gone to business together. I mean, duh. But it's just so messed up because Claudia's trying to get him to talk about how to handle the bills. And right in the middle of it, Chantal's like, yeah, I'm thinking of moving to Paris. Oh, okay, sure. Claudia is saying, listen, I've been looking at how to settle up the store. It's not fair. We're wasting all this money and we're not bringing anything in. And Lauren starts to say, we haven't sold anything in this space, talking about the art. And Claudia says, well, people don't buy art like they buy clothes. Lauren says, shouldn't there have been some sort of progress by now, though? It just sucks. They're putting all the blame on Claudia, and I don't think that's really fair either. They all went to business together. From what we've seen on camera, it looks like Claudia is putting in the most actual work at the store. It's hard to tell, but that's what it looks like. But I think they all three have their heads up their asses. So then we're at Maggie's apartment. So she had just, she gets a call from the Mizell Gallery. They are warming up to the idea of offering her something. She had written to them before to see if there was anything available for her. She wants to get away from Eli Klein. And they invite her to come help them out tomorrow to get more familiar with her. They ask her to come from 5 to 7, and he says, obviously, we'll pay you. Which is a joke because Eli never pays her. Ryan comes over and they talk about the position and she seems excited about it. Then we go over to the East Village where Claudia meets Angela for drinks. So Angela bothered me this time because of what happens. We're going to get into it. So Angela's first off starts by saying she made the biggest, most important purchase of her life. She bought a Givenchy bag yesterday. she'd been saving for this bag and working as a waitress to buy it. And, Claudia's like freaking out because she spent all this money on this gallery that's going nowhere, and Angela's talking about this bag. So they start talking about the gallery, and Claudia says Chantal is out of control, and Angela's like, what? What's going on? And Claudia says she picked up and went to Paris for 10 days without saying anything, and there's something pathological about her. And Angela says, you think she was lying about being sick? And Claudia says, yeah, I think she's a pathological liar. And Angela says, well, are you quitting into Century? And Claudia says, I'm thinking about it. And Angela says, well, it's not even been a year yet. And Claudia says, I'd have to get a job and settle up and pay my mom back. And Angela says, you have different goals. You want to make money. And Claudia says, yeah, I want to make money. And she wants cult status. And Angela says, well, I get it. I see where you're coming from. And Claudia says, if I leave, I want to see it die. And Angela says, why would you say that? And Claudia says, if I look into my deepest heart, I want to see the entire thing burn. Meaning that if she steps away from the business, she wants the business to dissolve. And is it wrong? I get what she's saying. She invested all the money. So if it took off after she left, that'd be pretty shitty. So I actually understood Claudia in this. I mean, I know you're supposed to wish your friends well, but I kind of got what she was saying here. So Maggie arrives at that gallery that she's trying to work at. She's there for the day so they can meet each other and see if she's a good fit and see if they like her. She meets with Frank, and it's the trial day. They're explaining 2 shows are up right now, and everybody does everything here. And this lady, I cannot remember her name, Marina, is trying to show her the ropes, basically. But Marina is not overly impressed, and you can tell because she keeps making faces every time Maggie does anything. So Frank's trying to tell her things to do, and it's just interesting to see. So Marina's trying to teach her how to make a macchiato and just things around the gallery. And Maggie's personality is just different. She's kind of snobby and kind of quiet and makes weird faces, and they pick up on it. So then we go over to Angela's, and Angela is getting ready to go meet up with Chantal. So she meets up with Chantal, and Angela, she ends up spilling her guts and telling Chantal every single thing that Claudia says. And I get it. She's friends with both, so she felt stuck in the middle, but I think you're allowed to vent to people, and it's not fair that she told Chantal every single thing Claudia said. She kind of torched their friendship. I mean, Claudia and Chantal did that too, but I'm saying, like, Angela threw gas on the fire, and she told her everything, including that she thinks she faked her illness. So you can imagine how that went over for Chantal, not very well. And it's just kind of a mess. So they have to figure out, Chantal has to figure out what the heck to do with this information. We go over to Amy's. Of course, her dad has sold the apartment, so she needs to find a job quickly. She's put out resumes to all the galleries in New York City, and one gallery has asked and called and asked for a writing sample. So she says it's a great gallery with a huge opportunity, so she's working on it. So this is where we see Maggie make a big mistake. She thinks that the trial has gone so well at the other gallery. She says, I don't have the job yet, but I'm going to go ahead and leave Eli Klein. And I understand he's not paying her, so, what does it matter? But she didn't, we'll get into the twist here, but she's telling him she found somebody who will actually pay her, and he is so creepy and gives me the heebie-jeebies and acts like, he says he doesn't want anybody to work for free, but she acts like she's been working for free for years. So she says, I'm going to take that other position. And Eli, he seems nice about it and says, let me know if you need a letter or something. So Maggie seems relieved to be leaving Eli. Where it's the last episode, we kind of have all these Frankenstein shots. We kind of just have a shot of end of century. Claudia's working, and then we see her locking up. She heads over to Chantal's house, and they sit down to talk, and it does not go well. And Claudia says, listen, I hope everything is okay after last night. I feel like Angela was out of place, to tell you all those things. Apparently, Angela texted her and said that she told Chantal everything she said. And Chantal is very upset and saying, she told me you thought I was making up that I was sick. And Claudia says, I never said that. That's insane. She did say that. So it just doesn't go well. They have a terrible conversation, and Claudia feels like she's the only one that cares about them being in debt. Chantal has always had this attitude like, it'll work out. And Claudia brings up, how will we handle paying the money back? And Chantal says, that's not a big worry. Claudia says, it is a big worry. So there's their problem right there. They're just not even on the same page for any of it. More Frankenstein shots. We see Maggie out on the beach with her boyfriend. She says she absolutely hates nature. She freaks out over everything from seashells to birds. It's kind of funny. Amy's getting her hair done because that's her favorite thing to do. The gallery asked her to come in for a one-day trial run. So she's getting her hair done, even though when she actually goes to the gallery, it's not done. So, interesting editing. But her hair looks crazy. All I can think of, I say it every time, she looks like Kim Zolciak hair. It's the craziest thing. That weird 70s bangs and curls, and it's very strange. So she walks into the gallery, and she gets to know everybody. And she she does a great job. She immediately makes good impressions. She's brought a pen and a notepad. She's taking notes. She's smiling. She's taking it seriously. She's leading with her enthusiasm, and they seem to really respond to that. They ask her also to make a caramel macchiato, and she knows exactly how to do it. So she's in there, no problem, and everybody's super happy with her. They allude to another girl was in her enthusiasm was at 0, and that it's a night and day difference. And they say, congratulations, we look forward to having you here. And she's super happy about it. So then we go over to this Eli Klein event, and it's a two-person show where they're showing off Beijing artists. Liz is there, so we get to see one last bitchy thing from Liz before the show ends. Angela's there. Maggie got a call to come in tomorrow for that gallery. She assumes to talk about the hiring and to get started working there. Yeah, that's not going to go well. Liz just can't help but be a bitch. She's decided she moves her hate from one person to another, and now she hates Maggie. So she says all these snide comments and gives her all these looks, but won't actually talk to her about it. And she just likes to hate people. She's happy to hate everybody. Maggie's kind of laughing about it with other people in the gallery. So what's interesting is Amy shows up, and she's very excited to have this new job at the gallery. Well, she doesn't realize that Maggie has gone out for this job, and so that'll come up, but she's telling people about it. She tells Eli about it, and he realizes it, and Amy tells him that they hired her, and Eli says, I'm glad you found a new home. And he ends up telling her what's happened. So Amy says, if Eli is right and Maggie is the other girl and they didn't like her, that's who they were talking about, well, then this is horrible. So the next day at the gallery, Amy is arriving to start her new job. So she gets in and tries to get settled, and we see Maggie arriving as well, and it's awkward. I actually felt really bad for Maggie here. Now, this gallery did not need to do this to this girl. I'm not always the biggest fan of Maggie. She is a snob, and I get why they may not have wanted to hire her, but they did not need to do this to her. They brought her in. She was greeted by Amy. She was surprised to see her there. And they take her back to talk to her. She comes to talk to Frank. And Amy's feeling so weird and just uncomfortable about it all. She's sitting at the desk and kind of puts her head down on the desk. But so they pull Maggie to the back, and Frank says, "We wanted to talk to you. We want to talk to you about everything that happened," and says, "Some things have happened, and we had hopes for you working here, but we didn't get the sense that you were really interested in the job. It was due to your lack of enthusiasm. You seem to have a lot to offer, but you don't seem interested in working in the art world. That's the impression I got." And Maggie, she just looks confused and says she doesn't understand. And Frank says, "I got the sense you weren't interested in learning anything. Am I wrong?" And he then explains that Amy applied and they hired her because she went the extra mile, and she was very friendly, and Maggie's upset, and it was hard to see, so she cries and she leaves, and Amy's trying to console her and hoping that she won't hold it against her that she got the job, and she doesn't seem to, but oh my gosh. They didn't have to do this to Maggie. It sucks. It was a shitty note to go out on. The show's wrapping up, and she's crying, and they're telling her she's not enthusiastic, and she's upset. She gets in a cab. She calls her boyfriend, and you just really see her kind of break down about it. She's like, "My dad's going to be so upset, and I'm upset," and all this. We go over to Kerri. She's talking to Sharon. They're looking at this art installation. And Kerri just kind of has to wrap up her story here. She's like, "Thank you so much for the internship. It has meant the world to me, but I'm going to stick with my full-time job. Thank you for this opportunity." And Sharon's very understanding. She's like, "That's a mature approach to take. I get it. Keep working. All good." We see Angela wrap up with taking photos, and it's just kind of a nonsense wrap up. They don't really say anything about her. We see Liz wrap up by trying to call her dad and trying to say hi and no answer, so she leaves a voicemail. So she's sad. Yeah. Okay. And then lastly, we wrap up at End of Century. Claudia's outside smoking and grabbing her things. She's cleaning up. And then we see Chantal drinking at the bar. So I love this show. It was so much fun, but they did such a shitty job wrapping things up. You can tell this review is kind of clunky because there's not much to say. The only interesting part was finding out the surprise that Amy had gotten the job that Maggie was going for, but other than that, it just felt like they were already over the series before it even got started. So they just didn't know what to do with it, so they just kind of tied it all together with this weird bow, and it just kind of went out with a whimper, which I didn't love. So that's it for the episode, but let's talk about what the girls are up to now, because that's the part that I was really wanting to know. What have they been up to? And I'll be honest, it's kind of hard to find information on them, but here's what I could find on each of them. So starting with Angela. Angela has stuck with photography. She ended up pairing up, this is her now, she ended up pairing up with her friend Sam Deitch, I believe you pronounce that, and they started Deitch Pham. It's a commercial photography business, and they've got some pretty big clients, including Alice and Olivia, Harper's Bazaar, Postmates, Bare Mineral, all kinds of people. And she and her boyfriend live in upstate New York. Then we go to Chantal. So Chantal's interesting. In 2014, she moved from New York to LA, and she opened an art agency called Assortment, which I couldn't really find much information on, but she's more into this music project. I don't know how you say that, Petra maybe? And it sounds like it's like new age kind of stuff. So yeah, that's what she's up to. Then we go over to Amy. Amy ended up leaving New York City. She spent about 5 years there, and she moved on to Miami. And that's where her family lives. And she ended up working as an art director for 2 major galleries, but now is working on opening her own art advisory firm. She wants to help curate collections for galleries. On to Claudia. Unfortunately, Claudia and Maggie have decided to maintain a low profile. Don't you hate that? I tried to do some internet stalking. It's really hard to find anything on either of them. It says less than a year after the show ended, she closed End of Century, and she really has disappeared since then. So then we move on to Maggie. Same thing with Maggie. She's seemed to keep a low profile. The only thing I can find out on her is after she left the Eli Klein Art Gallery. On to become assistant director of sales for a private art advisory from 2013 to 2014. And after that, disappeared off social media. Can't find anything. Oh, man. So then we move on to Kerri. Kerri was the one, she was working for that luxury concierge, of course, as well as interning. This is her now. She's still working for that same company, that luxury concierge company, 400. She's worked her way all the way up. She's now director of travel and art for the company, so good for her. And last is Liz. So Liz seems to have stayed on in New York City. We saw her working on her Bachelor of Fine Arts. She went on to get her master's as well. She got it from Sotheby's Institute. She started her own art consulting business where she advises private collectors. So that's what Liz is up to. You guys, that is it for Gallery Girls. It was so much fun rewatching those old episodes and talking about it. I got a lot of really good feedback on this one, so I'm going to look at other older shows to deep dive into because I miss them. And they're so much fun to rewatch. So I hope you've enjoyed it. Check out all my other videos. I have so many different ones up. Check them out. Check out my Patreon if you're interested in supporting the show. $1 a week, $4 a month. You get all kinds of bonus episodes. So check those out. And thank you guys for everything. Leave me comments. I love them. You can find me here or you can find me on Twitter at Real Recaps. And I thank you guys for everything. Have a wonderful week. Bye-bye.